Welcome to the Daily Devo. My name is Diana. Today we are talking about if salt loses its saltiness. Useful. What makes something useful? You might say something is useful when it is living out its intended purpose. Listen to what Jesus taught next in the Sermon on the Mount, found in Matthew chapter 5 through chapter 7. Today, we're going to look at chapter 5, verse 13. It says this, "You are the salt of the earth," Jesus said. "But if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything, except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot." Jesus is reminding the people of God of their purpose. You see, back in the Old Testament, when God called Abraham out to believe God and follow God, God's people were blessed by God to be a blessing. Jesus is reminding God's people that they are the salt of the earth. This is part of the purpose as a follower of God. Now think about the use of salt. One use of salt is to bring out the flavor. Bakers know this. If you put a little bit of salt with chocolate, it makes the chocolate flavor pop, for example. Another purpose of salt is to preserve things. A lot of times before refrigeration, you would salt a piece of meat and it would preserve it so the life would last longer. It would not go to waste as quickly. Well, Jesus, he goes on to ask a question. He says, if salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? Think about this practically for a moment. What food do you love putting salt on? I enjoy a good salty chip, maybe with some guacamole too, right? But maybe you like salt on your curry or on your meat or in your baking. Now imagine that food that you like without the salt. It would be different, bland, lacking the flavor of the salt. And let's say you ground rocks that maybe looked like salt, but it wasn't. The impact on your dish, if you put that in, it would be very different. You see, if salt loses its saltiness, it is no longer good. It is no longer living into its purpose, and nothing can quite replace it. Today, let me ask you a similar question. Are you living as a Jesus follower in your own life? Are you living into your purpose of adding value, of bringing out the God flavor in your life, at home, at work, in your free time, in your projects? Jesus is reminding us of his kingdom way and the impact, the influence, and the uniqueness his followers are called to live into, with his help, of course. Listen again. Matthew 5:13 says, "You are the salt of the earth. But if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot." Spend a little bit of time in prayer. Ask God what bringing his saltiness into your day today would look like. Ask God to restore your saltiness. We'll see you next time.